Captain Jake Morrison stood at the viewing port of his ship, the Endeavour, watching the massive space station slowly rotate in the distance. Kepler Station was the largest structure humans had ever seen when they first arrived 15 years ago. Even now, after all this time, the sight still amazed him. The station was home to over 2 million beings from across the galaxy. Tall, thin Velthan traders walked alongside the insect-like Krex warriors. The blue-skinned Hegemony officials conducted their business in the upper levels, while smaller species scurried through the lower decks. And scattered throughout were humans, working as diplomats, traders, and peacekeepers. Jake had been captain of the Endeavour for 8 years now. His job was simple on paper but difficult in practice. When different alien species had problems they could not solve, they called for humans. When trade disputes turned ugly, humans stepped in to find peaceful solutions. When wars threatened to break out, human diplomats worked day and night to prevent bloodshed. Today was no different. The Centuri trade disputes had been going on for 3 months. The Krex Empire wanted exclusive mining rights to the asteroid, fields near Zerion Prime. The Velthan Consortium claimed they had legal contracts for the same areas. Both sides had warships positioned around the system, and tensions were rising every day. Dr. Lisa Chen walked onto the bridge carrying a data pad filled with information about both species. She had spent the last 5 years studying alien biology and psychology. Her knowledge had helped Jake solve dozens of similar problems. "The Krex delegation is getting impatient," she said, handing him the pad. "Their warrior culture sees compromise as weakness. But the Velthans have legal documents that clearly show their rights to mine those asteroids." Jake nodded and reviewed her notes. The Krex were a proud species. They stood nearly 8 feet tall and had natural armor plating covering their bodies. In their culture, strength determined who was right. The Velthans were completely different. They were shorter than humans with large eyes and long fingers perfect for detailed work. They valued contracts and legal agreements above all else. Commander Ryan Brooks entered the bridge from the security station. He was responsible for keeping peace on Kepler Station, which meant dealing with conflicts between dozens of different species every day. His calm manner and fair judgment had earned respect from aliens who normally would never trust each other. "The station commander wants an update," Ryan said. "Both sides are bringing more ships into the system. If this goes on much longer, we might have a real war on our hands." Jake understood the pressure. Humans had built their reputation in the galaxy by solving problems that seemed impossible. When they first made contact with alien civilizations, most species expected them to be violent and dangerous. After all, Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. Most aliens could not survive even 1 day on the human homeworld without protection. But humans had surprised everyone. Instead of conquest and violence, they offered friendship and cooperation. They shared their technology and knowledge freely. When conflicts arose between other species, humans volunteered to mediate. Their success rate was incredible. In 15 years, human diplomats had prevented over 200 wars and solved thousands of trade disputes. The secret was simple. Humans understood both sides because they had experience with conflict themselves. Earth's history was full of wars and disagreements, but humans had learned to find peaceful solutions. They knew how to compromise and make deals that both sides could accept. The communication system activated, and the Krex war leader appeared on the main screen. His armor gleamed under the bridge lights, and his 4 arms moved restlessly as he spoke. "Human Morrison," the Krex leader said in his deep voice. "My patience grows thin. The Velthans refuse to acknowledge our superior claim to the mining rights. If they do not withdraw by tomorrow, we will take what is ours by force." Before Jake could respond, another screen activated showing the Velthan trade representative. Her large eyes showed concern as she spoke in her musical voice. "Captain Morrison, surely you can see that our legal documents are valid. We have invested billions of credits in mining equipment based on these contracts. The Krex cannot simply ignore galactic law because they have bigger weapons." Jake had been through similar situations many times before. Both species had valid points. The Krex had discovered the asteroid field first, but the Velthans had followed proper legal procedures to secure mining rights. A military solution would be disastrous for both sides. I propose a joint venture, Jake said calmly. The Krex Empire has the military strength to protect the mining operation from pirates and raiders. The Velthan Consortium has the technology and expertise to extract the most valuable materials efficiently. Working together, both species would profit more than either could alone. The two alien representatives looked uncertain. Jake continued his explanation, drawing on Dr. Chen's research about both cultures. For the Krex, this demonstrates strength, through leadership rather than conquest. You would be protecting a valuable operation while gaining profit and respect. For the Velthans, your legal rights are preserved while your investment is protected by the galaxy's finest warriors. Over the next 6 hours, Jake worked with both sides to develop the details of the agreement. The Krex would provide security and transportation. The Velthans would handle extraction and processing. Profits would be split based on contribution, rather than military might. When the final agreement was signed, both sides seemed satisfied. The Krex war leader actually smiled, showing his sharp teeth as he praised Jake's wisdom. The Velthan representative expressed gratitude for preserving their legal rights while finding a profitable solution. As the alien ships began to withdraw from their confrontational positions, Jake felt the familiar satisfaction of another crisis. Resolved. Dr. Chen updated her files with new information about both species. Commander Brooks relaxed as the threat of violence faded away. On Kepler Station, the news of the successful negotiations spread quickly. Other species watched and nodded approvingly. Once again, the humans had found a way to prevent war and create prosperity for everyone involved. In the Galactic Council chambers, representatives from dozens of worlds discussed the human success. Most praised their diplomatic skills and expressed gratitude for their peacekeeping efforts. But in the shadows, some council members whispered about human influence growing too strong. Councillor Zethtar of the Hegemony listened to the reports, with growing concern. These Deathworlders were becoming too important to galactic stability. Their success made other species dependent on human mediation. Soon, nothing would be decided without human approval. He began to form a plan. The galaxy needed to remember that humans were just another species, not special peacekeepers who deserved endless respect. It was time to remind these soft Deathworlders of their proper place in the galactic order. As Jake Morrison prepared for another diplomatic mission, he had no idea that his greatest challenge was about to begin. The galaxy's patience with human success was running out, and some species were ready to take drastic action to change the balance of power. The Festival of Unity came once every 3 years to Kepler Station. For 2 weeks, species from across the galaxy gathered to celebrate peace and cooperation. Trade agreements were signed, cultural exchanges happened, and old enemies sometimes became new friends. The festival was proof that different species could work together despite their differences. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the main plaza with his wife Helen and their 10-year-old daughter, Emma. The massive space was filled with beings from dozens of worlds. Krex warriors displayed their ceremonial armor while Velthan artists created beautiful light sculptures. Music from 100 different cultures mixed together in a strange but pleasant harmony. Emma pointed excitedly at a group of small, furry aliens who were juggling what looked like balls of pure energy. Helen laughed as their daughter tried to copy their movements. It was moments like this that reminded Jake why he loved his job. The galaxy was an amazing place when everyone got along. Dr. Lisa Chen stood near the science pavilion with her husband, Mark, and their twin boys, age 8. She was explaining different alien technologies to a group of human children who had gathered around her display. The kids were fascinated by a hegemony device that could make objects float in the air. Commander Ryan Brooks patrolled the plaza with a mixed security team. Human officers worked alongside Krex guards and Velthan peacekeepers. For 15 years, this kind of cooperation had been normal on Kepler Station. Different species trusted each other enough to work together, protecting everyone's safety. The HFY festival was in its 5th day when the first signs of trouble appeared. Several hegemony ships had arrived at the station, more than usual for the celebration. Councillor Zethtar himself had come, claiming he wanted to personally honor human diplomatic achievements. Jake felt uneasy about the Hegemony presence, but he pushed his concerns aside. The festival was supposed to be a time of peace. Every species was welcome to participate and celebrate. At 14:30 station time, everything changed. The lights in the plaza flickered as emergency alarms began to sound. Jake looked up to see Ryan Brooks speaking urgently into his communication device. Other security officers were running toward their posts. Something was very wrong. The main screens around the plaza activated, showing Counselor Zethtar in the council chambers. His blue skin looked darker than usual and his expression was cold and threatening. "Citizens of the galaxy," he announced in his deep voice. "For too long, we have allowed one species to dictate the terms of galactic peace. The humans have grown too powerful, too influential. Today that changes." Jake felt his blood turn cold. He grabbed Helen's hand and started looking for Emma, who had wandered closer to the alien jugglers. "The human leadership on this station will surrender immediately," Zethtar continued. "All human military assets will be turned over to Hegemony. Control. Those who comply will be treated fairly. Those who resist will face the consequences." The plaza erupted in confusion. Some aliens looked shocked and angry at Zethtar's words. Others seemed frightened and began moving toward the exits. Human families started gathering their children, unsure of what was happening. Jake activated his personal communicator, trying to reach the Endeavor. The signal was blocked. The Hegemony was jamming all communications from the station. That was when the first explosions began. The civilian quarters, where most human families lived, erupted in fire and debris. The Hegemony had not waited for a response to their ultimatum. They were attacking the parts of the station where humans were most vulnerable. Emma screamed as pieces of the ceiling began falling around them. Jake picked up his daughter and started running toward the nearest emergency shelter, with Helen right behind him. All around them, other families were doing the same thing. Dr. Chen saw the explosions from across the plaza. Her husband grabbed their boys and started running toward her. They had almost reached each other when the second wave of attacks hit. This time, the science pavilion exploded in a ball of flame. Lisa was thrown to the ground by the blast. When she looked up, she could not see Mark or the twins anywhere. The area where they had been standing was now a crater filled with burning debris. Commander Brooks was trying to coordinate an evacuation when his security station exploded. Half of his mixed species team was killed instantly. The Krex guards roared in anger and confusion. They had not expected this betrayal any more than the humans had. The attacks continued for hours. Hegemony ships surrounded the station, firing precisely at areas where humans lived and worked. They were not trying to destroy Kepler Station completely. They wanted to kill humans while leaving the valuable trade facilities intact. Jake and his family reached an emergency shelter in the lower levels of the station. The room was packed with terrified people from dozens of species. Many aliens looked ashamed and angry about what was happening. They had lived and worked alongside humans for years. This attack went against everything the festival represented. An elderly Velthan trader approached Jake with tears in her large eyes. "Captain Morrison," she said in her musical voice, "my people had nothing to do with this. The Hegemony does not speak for all of us." Jake nodded, but he was too focused on protecting his family to respond properly. Emma was crying, and Helen was trying to comfort her while also tending to a wounded human child whose parents had not made it to the shelter. The sounds of battle echoed through the station for 6 terrible hours. When the explosions finally stopped, the silence was almost worse than the noise had been. Hegemony soldiers entered the shelters searching for human survivors. They separated the humans from the other species, forcing them to line up against the walls. Jake tried to stay close to his wife and daughter, but a soldier pushed him away with the butt of his weapon. "You will come with us," the soldier told the human survivors. "The counselor wants to speak with your leaders." As they were marched through the destroyed sections of the station, Jake saw the full extent of the damage. The civilian quarters were completely gone. The human diplomatic offices were burning ruins. Bodies lay scattered in the corridors, many of them children. Dr. Chen was among the survivors being marched to the prison area. Her clothes were torn and burned, and she had a deep cut on her forehead. She looked around desperately, still hoping to see her family among the other prisoners. Jake caught her eye and shook his head sadly. He had not seen Mark or the twins either. The final count was devastating. Over 3,000 humans were dead, including 800 civilians. Most of the human diplomatic staff had been killed or captured. The Endeavor and 2 other human ships had been destroyed while their crews were attending the festival. Counselor Zeth Tar addressed the surviving humans in the station's main detention area. His blue skin seemed to glow with satisfaction as he looked at the defeated diplomats who had once commanded such respect. "Let this be a lesson to your species," he said coldly. "The galaxy does not need human peacekeepers. You are guests here, not leaders. Remember your place." But as the Hegemony celebrated their victory, they failed to notice something important. During the chaos of the attack, Lieutenant Kate Wilson had managed to reach an escape pod. As the station burned around her, she launched into space and activated the pod's emergency beacon. The pod's hyperspace drive engaged, carrying Kate and the terrible news toward Earth. The galaxy's civilized species had just made the greatest mistake in their history. They had attacked human children and families during a festival of peace. Soon, Earth would know what had happened at Kepler Station. And when they did, the galaxy would learn why Earth was classified as a death world and why its people had been showing restraint for 15 years. Lieutenant Kate Wilson's escape pod dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's outer defense stations. Her small ship was damaged and barely functioning, but the emergency beacon was still working. Within minutes, Earth Defense Command received her signal and brought her aboard the flagship carrier Defiance. Admiral Sam Carter was reviewing routine patrol reports when the emergency alert came through. He was a veteran of Earth's early space exploration, back when humans still believed they might be alone in the universe. The message from Kate's pod made his blood run cold. Kate stumbled onto the bridge, her uniform torn and stained with blood. Her hands shook as she handed Admiral Carter the data recorder from her pod. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Sir, Kepler Station has been attacked. The Hegemony killed thousands of our people. Captain Morrison, Dr. Chen, Commander Brooks, all the families attending the festival. They're dead or captured." Admiral Carter played the recording Kate had made during her escape. The images showed the burning station, the bodies in the corridors, the children who had been murdered during what was supposed to be a celebration of peace. His jaw tightened as he watched Counselor Zeth Tar's cold announcement about putting humans in their proper place. Within an hour, the news reached President Alex Morgan on Earth. She called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council, bringing together the planet's military and political leaders. The conference room fell silent as Kate's recording played on the main screen. General Paul Davis, head of Earth's military forces, stood up when the recording ended. He was a large man with scars from Earth's last major war, fought decades before, first contact with alien civilizations. His voice was calm but carried an edge that had not been heard since humanity joined the galactic community. "For 15 years we have followed the policy of peaceful cooperation," he said. "We kept our real military strength hidden because we wanted to be good neighbors. We showed restraint because we believed the galaxy was civilized." "President?" Morgan nodded. She remembered the debates when humans first encountered alien species. Earth's military leaders had wanted to reveal their full capabilities, but the diplomats argued for a gentle approach. The decision to hide humanity's true strength had kept the peace for over a decade. "The question now," the president said, "is whether we continue that policy or respond to this attack with our full capabilities." Dr. Amy Foster, Earth's leading expert on alien species, and Dr. Lisa Chen's former teacher, spoke from her seat at the table. She had spent years studying every known alien civilization, documenting their strengths and weaknesses. "Madam President, the galaxy has no idea what humans are truly capable of. Our diplomatic corps represents less than 1% of our military strength. The aliens see us as useful peacekeepers, but they think we're weak because we choose negotiation over violence." She activated a holographic display showing comparative data between humans and other species. The numbers were striking. Human bone density is 3 times higher than the galactic average. Our muscle mass is twice what most species consider normal. Our reaction times are faster than any recorded alien measurement. More importantly, our psychological profile shows a capacity for sustained warfare that no other species possesses. General Davis added more classified information. The ships and weapons the galaxy has seen are our oldest designs, kept in service for diplomatic missions. Our Riel fleet has been hidden in asteroid bases and disguised installations throughout the solar system. He showed images of massive warships built in secret shipyards beyond Pluto. Weapons platforms disguised as mining stations in the asteroid belt. Battle cruisers that had been testing new technologies while the galaxy believed Earth's military was small and outdated. The terraform ships working on Mars are actually mobile battle stations. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. The research stations around Jupiter are weapons development facilities. We have been preparing for war while pretending to seek peace. President Morgan looked at the faces around the table. These were good people who had supported diplomacy and cooperation for years. But the massacre at Kepler Station had changed everything. The aliens wanted to see what Deathworlders could do when we stopped playing fair, she said quietly. I think it's time to show them. The vote was unanimous. For the first time since joining the galactic community, Earth would go to war. Across the solar system, hidden bases came online. Admiral Carter dispatched orders to sleeper cells throughout human space. The vast network of secret military installations that had been maintained for 15 years began to activate. On Mars, the terraform ships revealed their true nature. Massive weapon systems emerged from their hulls as they transformed from peaceful construction vessels into instruments of war. The engineering crews who had been building cities were actually trained military personnel who had been waiting for this moment. In the asteroid belt, mining stations dropped their disguises. What the galaxy thought were simple rock processing facilities were actually some of the most advanced weapons platforms ever built. Each one carried enough firepower to level a city. Beyond Neptune, the secret shipyards released their creations. Hundreds of warships that had never been seen by alien eyes moved toward the inner system. These vessels used technology decades ahead of anything the galactic community possessed. Captain Nick Torres received his orders aboard the battleship Retribution. His ship had been disguised as a deep space research vessel for 8 years, conducting surveys in empty star systems. Now he was ordered to proceed to the Riel mining colony, where Hegemony forces had established a forward base. Commander Sarah Blake commanded a strike force of 12 ships that had been masquerading as merchant vessels. Her mission was to reach the Vega sector, where human colonies were under attack by Hegemony allies. Colonel Dan Mitchell prepared his ground forces for the first human planetary assault in decades. His troops had been training for years in secret facilities, learning to fight in environments that would kill most alien species. The transformation was incredible to watch. Earth went from a peaceful member of the galactic community to a war machine in less than 24 hours. The planet that aliens thought they understood revealed capabilities that made their greatest military powers look primitive. Dr. Foster sent a message to the few alien species that had condemned the attack. On Kepler Station, the Velthan Consortium and several other civilizations had publicly criticized the Hegemony's actions. To our friends in the galaxy, her message began, humanity appreciates your support during this difficult time. We want you to know that our response will be directed only at those who participated in or supported the massacre of our civilians. Those who stand with us have nothing to fear. But for the Hegemony and their allies, a different message was prepared. President Morgan herself delivered it in a broadcast that reached every inhabited system in the galaxy. You have attacked our families during a celebration of peace. You have murdered our children and taken our people prisoner. You wanted to remind us of our place in the galactic order. Consider us reminded. 15 years ago, we chose diplomacy over conquest. We chose cooperation over domination. We chose to hide our true strength because we believed the galaxy could be civilized. You have proven us wrong. The Deathworlders are no longer playing fair. You will face the full might of a species that evolved on a planet that tries to kill everything that lives on it. You will learn why Earth breeds survivors, and why survival sometimes requires becoming the hunter instead of the prey. As Earth's hidden fleets moved toward their targets, the galaxy held its breath. The civilized species had awakened something they did not understand and could not control. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human warfare had begun. The first sign that everything had changed came at the Riel mining colony. The Hegemony had taken control of the mining platforms 3 days after the attack on Kepler Station. They expected some kind of rescue attempt by human forces, probably a small diplomatic ship asking for negotiations. Instead, they faced Captain Nick Torres and the battleship Retribution. The Hegemony base commander was reviewing security reports when his sensors detected a single ship approaching the system. The vessel appeared to be alone and was not broadcasting any identification signals. The commander smiled, thinking this would be an easy victory to add to his record. The Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system and immediately opened fire. There were no demands for surrender, no attempts at communication, no warnings of any kind. The ship simply began killing everything in its path. The Hegemony base had defensive shields that could stop any known weapon. They had been built to withstand attacks from entire fleets. The Retribution's first salvo tore through them like they were made of paper. The base commander tried to send a distress signal, but his communication array was destroyed before he could complete the transmission. His weapons fired back at the AI, human ship, but the energy beams seemed to have no effect on its armor. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, the Riel mining colony was gone. Not captured, not damaged, but completely destroyed. The asteroid that had housed the base was reduced to glowing fragments floating in space. The few Hegemony survivors in escape pods were picked up by human rescue teams. They were treated well, given medical care, and then sent back to Hegemony space with a simple message. This was the easy one. News of the Riel attack spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The aliens had expected human anger, maybe even some kind of military response. But this was something different. This was systematic destruction carried out with terrifying efficiency. Commander, Sarah Blake received her orders while her strike force was hidden in the outer edges of the Vega sector. 12 human colonies in this region were under attack by Hegemony allies. The aliens had surrounded the planets with overwhelming force, expecting easy victories against civilian populations. Sarah's approach was completely different from traditional warfare. Instead of engaging the enemy fleets directly, she targeted their support systems. Supply ships carrying food and ammunition simply vanished without a trace. Communication relays went silent one by one. Fuel depots exploded with no warning. The alien commanders woke up to find their personal guards dead and messages carved into their ship's walls. The words were always the same. You started this, we finish it. On the planet New Austin, the human colonists had been under siege for a week. The defending militia was outnumbered 50-1, but they held the main city against constant attacks. The alien forces were confident that victory was just a matter of time. Then the supply ships stopped coming. The orbital bombardment platforms went quiet. The alien ground troops found themselves cut off from all support, facing human defenders who seemed to know exactly where they were at all times. The siege ended when the alien commander received a personal visit from a human infiltrator who had somehow made it past every security measure. The intruder left him alive but delivered a clear message: surrender now or face the same fate as his guards. Colonel Dan Mitchell was preparing for the assault on Zerion Prime, the hegemony world that served as a major military center. The planet was considered impregnable, protected by orbital defense stations and a surface covered with military installations. The alien commanders were confident that no ground force could take such a heavily defended world. They had studied human military history and knew that humans preferred direct assaults and overwhelming firepower. They prepared for a battle that would match their expectations. Instead, Dan's forces used tactics that no alien species had ever encountered. They did not try to destroy the orbital stations. They captured them by infiltrating the crews and turning the weapons against other targets. They did not assault the surface installations. They attacked the planet's infrastructure, cutting power, and water to military bases while leaving civilian areas untouched. The human troops moved through environments that would kill most alien species. They fought in acid rain, survived in poisonous atmospheres, and operated in temperature extremes that made their enemies retreat to shelters. When alien reinforcements arrived, they found their bases dark and silent. The human forces had not destroyed them, but had made them unusable. Power systems were sabotaged in ways that would take months to repair. Computer networks were filled with viruses that made all equipment unreliable. The battle for Zerion Prime lasted 18 hours. The planet fell not because human firepower was superior, but because human soldiers could adapt to any situation and keep fighting when any reasonable species would surrender. Dr. Amy Foster watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Human forces were not just winning battles, they were demonstrating a completely different approach to warfare. The aliens fight to achieve specific objectives, she explained to President Morgan during their daily briefing. They want to capture territory, destroy enemy forces, or force political changes. Humans are doing something else entirely. She showed footage from the various battles, pointing out details that most observers had missed. Look at the Riel attack. Captain Torres could have disabled the base and taken prisoners. Instead, he eliminated it completely. The message was not surrender or be defeated. It was, you cannot exist in the same galaxy as us. The Vega sector operations are even more telling. Commander Blake is not trying to win territory. She is making it impossible for enemy forces to function. She is hunting them. The president studied the tactical reports with growing understanding. They are not fighting a war. They are conducting an extermination. Exactly. And the galaxy is beginning to understand that humans approach warfare the same way they approach everything else on Earth. When a problem threatens survival, you eliminate the problem completely. In the Hegemony capital, Counselor Zethtar watched the same reports with growing panic. His military advisors were recommending withdrawal from human space, but he refused to admit that his plan had failed. They are just one species, he told his war council. We have allies throughout the galaxy. Surely combined forces can stop them. His intelligence officer, a nervous being with 6 arms and compound eyes, delivered the latest assessment. Sir, our allies are surrendering rather than face human forces. The Krex Empire has declared neutrality. The Velthan Consortium is openly supporting the humans now. Even our own colonies are asking for permission to negotiate separate peace agreements. Zethtar realized that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not responding like any civilized species. They were acting like the apex predators of a death world, and they would not stop until every threat was eliminated. Across the galaxy, other species watched in horror as their worst nightmare came true. The peaceful diplomats they had known for 15 years were gone. In their place was something that made every other military power look weak and primitive. The Deathworlders had stopped playing fair, and the galaxy was learning what that really meant. 6 months after the massacre at Kepler Station, the war was over. The Hegemony homeworld hung silent in space, its military installations reduced to twisted metal and dark craters. The orbital defense platforms that had once made the planet untouchable now floated as dead hulks around their former home. Admiral Sam Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the conquered world through the viewport. The planet's cities still functioned, but every military base, every weapons factory, and every government building that had supported the attack on human civilians had been systematically destroyed. The precision had been remarkable. Human forces had surgically removed the Hegemony's ability to wage war while leaving civilian areas completely untouched. Schools, hospitals, and residential districts remained unharmed. The message was clear. Humans did not make war on innocent people, but those who did would face total destruction. Captain Jake Morrison walked slowly through the rebuilt corridors of Kepler Station. The human sections had been completely reconstructed, but they felt different now. Where once there had been diplomatic offices and cultural exchange centers, there were now military command posts and security checkpoints. Jake had been rescued from a Hegemony prison camp 3 months earlier. The experience had changed him. The diplomatic captain who had once solved problems with words and compromise was gone. In his place was a man who understood that some problems could only be solved with force. He stopped at the memorial wall where the names of the massacre victims were carved in black stone. Helen Morrison, age 34, Emma Morrison, age 10. The words seemed to blur as he read them. His wife and daughter had been among the first to die when the Hegemony opened fire on the civilian quarters. Dr. Lisa Chen found him there, standing silently before the wall. She looked older than her years, her hair now streaked with gray that had appeared in the months since the attack. She had never found her husband or children among the survivors. "The new Galactic Council wants to meet with us," she said quietly. "They are offering formal apologies and requesting that we return to our peacekeeping role." Jake turned to look at her. Dr. Chen now served as Earth's chief administrator for the occupied territories, overseeing the rehabilitation of former Hegemony worlds. Her job was to ensure that the species that had supported the massacre could never threaten human civilians again. "What did you tell them?" he asked. "That we would consider their request," she replied. "But first, they need to understand the new rules." The rebuilt council chambers of Kepler Station were very different from the old ones. Where alien representatives had once debated as equals, now human officials sat at the head of every committee. The few alien delegates present were there as advisors and observers, not decision-makers. Commander Ryan Brooks entered the chamber carrying a datapad with the latest reports from across human space. He had survived the massacre but carried scars on his face from the explosion that had destroyed his security station. His new job was overseeing the integration of alien species into the human-controlled galactic order. "The Krex Empire has requested permission to establish a new trade agreement," he reported to the assembled officials. "They want to purchase human military technology in exchange for exclusive mining rights in their territory." Admiral Carter, who now served as military governor of the occupied regions, reviewed the proposal. The Krex had been wise enough to declare neutrality when the war began. They had even provided intelligence about hegemony movements to human forces. "Approved," he said, "but they get defensive technology only. No weapon systems." A nervous Velton representative raised one of her long fingers to speak. Her species had openly supported humanity during the war, providing safe harbor for human refugees and sharing intelligence about enemy movements. "Admiral, my people are honored by the new trade opportunities," she said in her musical voice. "But some of our colonies are concerned about the human military presence in their systems." Admiral Carter looked at her with the expression he had learned during months of conquest. It was not cruel, but it was absolutely certain. "The human military presence exists to ensure that what happened at Kepler Station never happens again," he said calmly. "Any species that finds this arrangement uncomfortable is welcome to request relocation to neutral space." The Velthan delegate nodded quickly and returned to her seat. The new galactic order was clear. Humans were no longer junior partners in a community of equals. They were the dominant species, and their word was final. President Alex Morgan addressed the galaxy from her office on Earth. The message was broadcast to every inhabited world, every space station, and every ship in known space. For 15 years, humanity served as mediators and peacekeepers in the galactic community, she began. "We believed that diplomacy and cooperation could solve any problem. We trusted that civilized species would respect the safety of our families and children. That trust was betrayed at Kepler Station, where over 3,000 human civilians were murdered during a festival celebrating peace. The galaxy learned that day what happens when deathworlders stop playing fair. Today, I am announcing the new structure of galactic governance. Human oversight will ensure that no species ever again suffers the fate that befell our people. Military conflicts between alien civilizations are now forbidden. Trade disputes will be resolved through human arbitration. Any species that threatens civilians will face immediate and total response. This is not conquest. This is protection. We are ensuring that the galaxy becomes what it should have been from the beginning, a place where families can attend festivals without fear, where children can learn about other cultures without danger, where peace is maintained by strength rather than hoped for through weakness. The response from across the galaxy was immediate and telling. Some species expressed gratitude for the new stability. Others complained about the loss of their independence. A few brave voices asked what would happen if humanity ever decided to expand their control beyond its current limits. Dr. Amy Foster provided the answer during a lecture at the rebuilt Kepler Station University. Her audience included students from dozens of species, all eager to understand the new reality they lived in. Humans do not seek empire, she explained to the mixed crowd of young beings. Empire requires constant expansion and control over unwilling subjects. What humans have created is something different, a protective zone where civilized behavior is enforced. A young Hegemony student, one of the first generation to grow up under human oversight, raised his hand. Professor Foster, what happens if a new threat emerges from outside human space? What if unknown species discover the galaxy and want to conquer it? Dr. Foster smiled, the expression both reassuring and slightly terrifying. Then they will learn the same lesson that the Hegemony learned. The galaxy is now under the protection of a species that evolved on a world that tries to kill everything that lives on it. Earth breeds survivors, and survivors protect their own. The rebuilt Kepler station now housed a special memorial in its central plaza. Visitors from across the galaxy came to read the inscription that told the story of what had happened there. Here fell 3,000 innocents, victims of those who mistook diplomacy for weakness. From their sacrifice rose a new order. Never again will children die for the political ambitions of adults. Never again will families be murdered in the name of power. Never again will the galaxy forget that some species earn their place through strength, while others have strength thrust upon them. The day Deathworlders stopped playing fair became the day the galaxy learned that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. This is the legend every species remembers. Those who threaten the innocent will face the full wrath of those who survived a planet that shows no mercy. The galaxy was at peace, not because everyone agreed to cooperate, but because everyone understood the consequences of failing to do so. Humanity had proven that sometimes the only way to preserve civilization is to become its guardian, whether the galaxy wanted guardians or not.